Welcome back to Meaningful Whispers. Tonight you slip into the thin, breathless air of Tibet, where the horizon is crowned by white peaks so sharp they seem to slice the sky itself. The wooden clock beside your bed ticks faintly, but in your mind's eye it's replaced by the hollow clang of a bronze monastery bell, echoing into a pale dawn. The smell of incense clings to your robes, and your bare feet graze the frozen earth. You feel the weight of departure without fanfare, without words. Only the monk's quiet resolve, your resolve. And yes, your ego might not make it through unscathed, because once you leave the familiar walls of the monastery, you enter a place where the snow listens, where the wind steals your thoughts, and where silence itself feels alive. So before we dive in, tap that like button and subscribe to Cyphoria. Only if these midnight mind voyages truly speak to you. And tell me in the comments, where are you listening from? And what time does your consciousness wander tonight? Let's see how far across the map of consciousness we stretch tonight. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You stand at the wooden gates of the monastery, hands folded loosely before you. They creak open with a sound like an old memory breaking free. The dawn light is fragile, a pale shimmer caught between night and day. Your breath curls in tiny clouds, fleeting and insubstantial, like all things you were taught to release. Behind you, the chants of the morning prayer echo faintly. Ahead, the endless expanse of white. You begin to walk. The snow crunches beneath your sandals with a soft, brittle sound. Each step feels deliberate, a meditation. The cold nips at your skin but does not bite deeply. It simply reminds you that you still have a body to carry you. You take a slow breath, feeling the air thin and sharp as a blade. Inhale through your nose, let it pause and exhale gently. Feel the space around your heart open with that breath. As you descend the narrow path from the monastery, you pass the old prayer wheels. They are half buried in frost, but their soft copper gleam peeks through. You turn one absent-mindedly, feeling its weight spin, and for a brief moment the mountain breeze seems to hum a mantra only you can hear. Form is emptiness. Emptiness is form, a whisper says. Maybe it's your mind. Maybe it's the mountain. Did you know that in the 15th century, Tibetan monks believed leaving the monastery was like walking out of the dream of one life into another? It wasn't rebellion, it was continuity, like turning a page but staying within the same book. Yet historians still argue whether these solitary pilgrimages were acts of spiritual bravery or subtle punishment for monks who asked too many questions. Perspective, always a slippery thing, like trying to hold snow in your hand. You keep walking, and the faint outline of a yak caravan passes in the distance, dark shapes moving slowly across the blinding white. You remember an old story of a monk named Sering who left on a pilgrimage like yours and returned years later with a single bell he claimed could call the wind. But when he rang it, nothing happened. He only smiled and said, "Ah, but the silence you just heard, that was the wind listening." Clever and a little absurd. Monks always have their jokes. Even on the edge of eternity, a raven circles above you, its cry sharp and lonely. You pause. The mountain seems to exhale, and a sheet of snow falls from a pine tree nearby. Everything is moving, even in stillness. Nietzsche once wrote, "Invisible threads are the strongest ties." You feel that here, the invisible threads of the monastery you left behind. The invisible threads of where this path will take you. Your fingers grow numb, but you don't mind. The cold has a way of stripping away excess. You think of how modern psychology talks about sensory reset, the way extreme environments can silence the constant chatter of the mind. Perhaps this is your reset. The monastery taught you to sit with stillness. Now the mountain teaches you to walk with it. Further along, you find a cluster of stones marked with faded Tibetan script. They're called mani stones, offerings to the spirits of the mountain. You kneel, trace the carved letters with your fingertips, and whisper the mantra they carry. Om Mani Padme Hum. It feels less like prayer, more like tuning your breath to the rhythm of the snow. Take another breath now, slowly, deeply. Feel it fill not just your lungs, but the entire space inside you. Hold it, and as you release, let go of one small thing you've been carrying all day. Imagine it dissolving into the white air like mist. You glance back once more. The monastery is already distant, its outline softened by snow. Ahead lies the first mountain pass. Beyond it, the unknown. And you walk on, not because you seek an answer, but because walking itself is the answer. The dawn finally lifts into morning, and the sun catches the snow in tiny sparks, like scattered stars. The path narrows, twisting along the edge of a cliff. You steady your steps. Each crunch of snow beneath your feet is a soft reminder. You are here, you are moving, you are part of this vast, breathing silence. The mountain path winds upward, its curve lost in mist so pale it looks like the breath of the earth itself. You feel the weight of the sky pressing close, an endless dome of quiet that makes your own thoughts sound louder. Yet strangely, they feel softer too, stretched thin by altitude, dissolving like vapor. You pause to sip from a small wooden flask of melted snow, the cold water shocking your tongue. The taste is pure, almost sweet, untouched by anything but the air itself. A raven's cry echoes again in the distance, and you wonder if it's the same one following you, or if all ravens in this frozen land are the same soul, just changing bodies, like the sea god Proteus you once heard about, always shifting shape, never caught in one form for too long. A gust of wind lifts the edge of your robe, and you pull it tighter. You breathe in, slowly through your nose, let the air brush the roof of your mouth, then release in a soft sigh. Feel how the exhale loosens your shoulders, even here in the thin, biting cold. The trail becomes steeper, littered with shards of rock and patches of ice. You pass an ancient cairn, a tower of stones carefully balanced by hands long gone. Perhaps it marks the place where a traveler stopped, too weary to continue, or simply wanted the mountain to remember their presence. Historians still debate whether these markers were spiritual offerings or just wayfinding signs. Maybe both. Meaning, after all, is rarely one thing. There's a story the older monks told in the flickering candlelight of the monastery halls. A tale of Dorje, a wandering ascetic who once crossed the same pass. Legend says he carried nothing but a prayer wheel and a bowl. One night, as the snow fell heavier than ever, a blizzard swallowed him whole. Days later, villagers found him sitting upright, encased in ice, still spinning the prayer wheel in his frozen hand. Even stillness moves, the abbots would say with a sly smile. You continue upward, and the snow becomes deeper, reaching your knees. It forces you to slow down, and you find that the slowness itself feels like a lesson. You can't fight the mountain. You can only step into its rhythm. From somewhere behind you, the low hum of a yak bell drifts on the wind. You glance back and see a caravan slowly approaching, led by a man whose face is hidden in layers of woolen leather. As the caravan draws nearer, he nods at you with a look that says, "Yes, this path is endless, but so are you." No words are exchanged. There's no need. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star, Nietzsche wrote. And you think of that now as the snow begins to swirl in little eddies around your feet, like tiny stars caught in an unseen current. Your breath grows heavier. You feel your pulse in your temples, in your fingertips. It's strange. Back at the monastery, silence was something you cultivated in stillness. Here, silence is alive, moving around you, through you, like an invisible companion. A memory flickers, the elder monk who gave you a single piece of advice before you left. The mountain doesn't teach you new truths, he said. It only peels away the lies you've been living with. You didn't understand then. Maybe you still don't, but you feel the truth of his words tugging gently at the edges of your mind. The path finally flattens into a small plateau, and there, nestled against a cliff, you find a tiny shrine. Its wooden door creaks open in the wind, revealing a flickering butter lamp still burning, though no one seems to have tended it for days. The smell of burnt yak butter mixes with the cold mountain air, earthy and sweet. You kneel. The floor is covered in dust and old offerings, prayer beads, scraps of faded silk, a small clay figure of Chen Rezig, the bodhisattva of compassion. You place your hands together, bow once, and sit for a moment. Your breath slows, your heart slows. The mountain waits, patient as always. In psychology, there's a concept called liminality, a state of being between two worlds, no longer who you were, but not yet who you're becoming. You feel that now. You're not the monk of the monastery anymore, but you're not the pilgrim of the mountain yet either. You're suspended in the in-between. A soft sound draws your attention. It's the wind moving through a crack in the shrine wall, making a low, almost musical hum. You close your eyes and listen. It sounds like a voice, though you can't catch the words. Or maybe it's just the mountain breathing. Take another breath with it. Inhale gently, hold for a heartbeat, exhale even slower. Imagine your breath mingling with the wind, becoming part of this ancient, wordless song. When you open your eyes, the snow has stopped falling. The clouds part slightly, revealing a stretch of jagged peaks ahead. Somewhere beyond them lies the land of eternal snow, the place the elder monks spoke of in hushed tones, a place said to hold no answers, only deeper questions. You rise, leaving the shrine behind. As you step back onto the path, you glance at the flickering butter lamp one last time. It feels like a small star left behind in the darkness, a reminder that even in this vast emptiness, something always burns. And so you keep walking, one deliberate step at a time. The silence follows you, or perhaps you're following it. The air thins further as you climb, and each breath feels like sipping through silk, delicate and fleeting. You notice your thoughts slowing, softening, as if the mountain itself is stripping them bare. You've stopped trying to measure the distance. Up here, time folds in on itself. The past and future feel equally irrelevant. A pale sun emerges between the clouds, casting a light so thin it doesn't warm, but instead sharpens every edge of rock and snow. The horizon seems both endless and impossibly close. You step carefully, feeling the crunch of ice beneath your sandals, a sound swallowed instantly by the open silence. Then in the distance you see something. No, someone. A lone figure dressed in crimson robes, sitting cross-legged on a boulder. They are utterly still, like a piece of the mountain carved by the wind. You approach quietly, unsure if they are real. As you draw nearer, you realize they are not a monk at all, but a weathered statue, half buried in snow. Its face is eroded, features smoothed by centuries of storms. Historians still debate who carved these solitary statues scattered along the Himalayan pass. Some say they were placed to guard the trails, while others believe they are remnants of an older, forgotten faith. Neither answer feels complete. Like most truths here, they hover just beyond grasp. You remember a story whispered by one of the monastery's storytellers, a man with more wrinkles than teeth. He spoke of a wandering hermit who tried to meditate on the summit of the world, believing he could transcend his human form. But when villagers climbed to check on him, they found only a statue where he once sat, as if the mountain had absorbed him, freezing his ambition into stone. A gust of wind pulls you back to the present. You close your eyes and inhale slowly through your nose. Let the air fill the hollow space of your chest. Then exhale through parted lips. Feel the tiny release of tension between your ribs. The path narrows into a knife-edge ridge. Below you, the slopes plunge into shadowy valleys. The snow seems untouched, pristine, like a canvas the world forgot to paint. You take slow, deliberate steps. There's no railing here, no room for distraction. You are completely inside this moment. Ahead, a line of colorful prayer flags stretches across the ridge, snapping in the wind. Reds, blues, greens, yellows, all faded but still bright against the white landscape. The fabric flutters like whispers, each carrying a prayer to the heavens. You reach out and let your fingers brush one of the flags, feeling its coarse, weathered threads. Somewhere deep inside, you sense those prayers are not just for the world, but for you too. There's a saying carved into the monastery's wooden gate: silence is the language of the unseen. You think of it now, wondering if the silence around you is speaking, or if it's simply reminding you to listen. As you pause on the ridge, a memory drifts back, the soft laughter of children in the monastery courtyard, chasing after a ball of wool. Their voices echo in your mind, warm and fleeting. Up here, that laughter feels like it belongs to another lifetime. A shadow moves in the corner of your vision. You glance down to see a snow leopard far below, its pale coat blending perfectly into the rocks. It moves with a grace that feels ancient, deliberate, knowing. For a moment, your eyes meet, and you feel as though the mountain itself is looking at you through the animal. Then it slips silently out of sight, leaving only a faint trail of paw prints. Nietzsche once wrote, "He who climbs upon the highest mountains laughs at all tragedies, real or imagined." You let the thoughts settle into your bones. Up here, what once felt monumental seems small. All the little dramas of life shrink beneath the immensity of snow and stone. You keep moving. Your muscles ache, but it's a clean ache, free of resentment. Each step feels like both a burden and a release. There's no destination in sight, only the endless act of going forward. Finally, the ridge opens into a wide plateau, and there, hidden in the rocks, you find another shrine. But this one is different. It's not just a single butter lamp. It's a circle of them, all burning faintly despite the wind. In the center, a bowl of melted snow reflects the dim light like liquid silver. You kneel once more. The air is colder here, sharper. As you bow, a faint ringing fills your ears. Not the ringing of metal, but something softer, like a memory of bells. You wonder if it's the sound of your own pulse, or if the mountain is offering you a sound only it can make. In psychology, there's a term for this sensation: oceanic feeling, the sense of losing the boundary between yourself and the vastness around you. You feel it now, not like a sudden revelation, but a slow untying of who you think you are. Breathe again. Inhale with intention, hold it for 3 seconds, exhale until nothing is left. Let the emptiness feel like a gift, not a loss. When you rise, you notice fresh footprints leading away from the shrine. They are small, almost childlike, vanishing into the snow. You follow them instinctively, even though you know they might not belong to anyone at all. The trail bends around a cliff, and the sky begins to darken. Twilight descends like a soft veil, painting the peaks in violet and gold. Somewhere beyond this stretch lies another step, another mystery, another silence waiting to be met. And so, you keep walking. Night gathers like ink spilling across parchment, and the mountains seem to lean closer as if they are listening to your breath. You pause, feeling the weight of the sky pressing down, thick with stars. Up here they burn sharper, nearer, as though the universe forgot to keep its distance. You light a small butter lamp from your satchel, cupping your hands to shield the flame. It flickers like a fragile heartbeat, illuminating just enough of the path to remind you where you are. The snow reflects the glow, casting an eerie golden shimmer across the silent expanse. Then you hear it, a sound faint yet distinct, a low, resonant hum carried on the wind. It's not chanting, not quite music, but something between. You follow it, step by step, until you see a faint glow in the distance. A hidden cave reveals itself, tucked beneath an overhanging cliff. At its entrance, rows of old wooden wheels spin gently, powered by the mountain breeze. Prayer wheels, their surfaces etched with ancient mantras. You trail your fingers along one as it turns, feeling the faint grooves of the carved letters. Someone, long ago, believed each rotation sent a prayer into the infinite. Inside the cave, you find warmth, a soft, unexpected stillness that feels alive. The walls are lined with faded murals depicting strange, looping patterns, snow lions with flaming tails, endless knots, and monks with halos of light around their heads. One figure stands out among them, a monk holding a staff, his robes painted with gold leaf, now dulled by time. His eyes seem to follow you, not accusing, just knowing. There's an old anecdote told in Tibetan monasteries about a monk who meditated in a cave for so long that when travelers finally found him, his body had turned to salt. Not bone, not ash, salt. As if the mountain had taken his essence and preserved it. A reminder that even devotion dissolves into the elements. Scholars still argue whether this was a literal tale or a metaphor for spiritual surrender. But as you stand in the dim glow of the cave, you feel it might be both. The hum you heard outside grows louder here. You realize it's not external at all. It's inside your own ears, a vibration born of the silence. It's the sound of your own body, your own blood, amplified by the stillness. You close your eyes and inhale deeply, letting the cool air expand your lungs. Then exhale slowly until the hum softens, like a wave retreating. On the far side of the cave lies a small alcove with a single object, a conch shell, resting atop a worn piece of silk. It's cracked but still beautiful, its spirals smooth and hypnotic. You lift it gently, bringing it close to your ear. Instead of the ocean, you hear whispers, faint words you can't quite make out, as if the shell is trying to speak but doesn't remember the language anymore. You hold it a little longer before setting it back down, careful not to disturb the silk. There's a quote from Jung that flits across your mind. In all chaos, there is a cosmos. You feel the truth of it here, in this quiet chaos of symbols and silence. You step outside again, and the cold bites sharper now. The stars have multiplied, spilling across the sky like shards of broken glass. In the distance, you see faint torches moving along another ridge. Other travelers perhaps, or maybe just your imagination tracing light where none exists. A small smile tugs at your lips. It feels absurd. The thought of being lost here. How can you be lost in a place that belongs to no one? The path winds downward slightly, leading into a sheltered valley. The snow here is softer, dotted with tiny tufts of hardy grass that somehow survive. At the valley's center is an ancient stone stupa, cracked and leaning slightly, like it has been bowing for centuries. Its surface is carved with circular patterns that seem endless, like time looping in on itself. You circle it 3 times, as is tradition, your steps crunching rhythmically in the snow. With each lap, you feel lighter, as if the act of walking in circles untangles something knotted deep inside. In a moment of stillness, you think of the monastery far below, the chants, the smell of incense, the steady rhythm of daily prayers. And here you are, away from it all, yet somehow closer to its essence than ever. Beyond the stupa, the path splits into 2. One trail climbs even higher, toward jagged peaks where the air is thin and unforgiving. The other winds down into a valley filled with mist, where faint glimmers of water catch the starlight. You pause, undecided, but the choice doesn't feel urgent. In this silence, even indecision feels like part of the journey. Then you notice a shape at the edge of the mist, a yak grazing calmly. It lifts its head and looks at you, eyes dark and unhurried. For a brief, strange moment, it feels like the yak is not just an animal, but a witness, holding some quiet wisdom you can't name. You exhale softly, letting your breath plume into the frozen air. Breathe again, slowly, steadily, letting your shoulders drop an inch lower with each exhale. A laugh escapes you, quiet and unexpected. Perhaps it's the altitude or the solitude, but it feels absurdly funny that you've come all this way, seeking something nameless, only to find a yak staring back at you. But the laughter fades quickly, replaced by a deeper calm. You take another step forward, unsure which path you've chosen, realizing it doesn't matter. Both lead deeper into the same mystery. And so you keep walking into the mist, into the unknown, letting the mountain lead where it will. The mist wraps around you like a living veil, soft and cool against your skin. Each breath feels quieter, as if the air itself has agreed to keep your secrets. You can barely see the ground now, only the faint outline of your boots pressing into the snow. Somewhere in the distance, you hear water trickling, a delicate sound that feels impossibly fragile in this vast silence. You follow it, step by careful step, until the haze parts slightly to reveal a hidden lake. Its surface is like glass, perfectly still, reflecting the jagged peaks above in an upside-down world. You crouch at the edge, dipping your fingertips into the icy water. It's so cold it burns, but you leave your hand there a moment longer, as if hoping the lake might respond with some forgotten memory. There's a story whispered among Tibetan pilgrims about a lake like this, one that was said to mirror not your face, but your spirit. If your heart was restless, the water would ripple, even in windless stillness. If you were at peace, it would remain smooth. You lean closer, peering into your reflection. For a fleeting moment, you think you see movement beneath the surface, like a shadow twisting silently. Then it's gone, and only your own tired eyes stare back at you. As you stand, you hear the soft ring of a bell, not loud, not urgent, but distant, like an echo traveling across centuries. You turn toward the sound and spot a faint light flickering through the mist. Instinctively, you move toward it. The trail brings you to a solitary figure sitting on a rock, draped in layered robes that blend into the landscape. An old monk, his face lined like the folds of a mountain. He doesn't look up immediately, but when he does, his eyes hold a calm that feels both infinite and deeply human. He doesn't speak, but he gestures for you to sit. You do. And for a long moment, neither of you says anything. There is only the faint sound of your own breathing and the occasional flutter of the monk's prayer beads. Finally, he speaks, his voice as soft as falling snow. The mountain teaches without words. You nod, though you're not sure you fully understand. But that seems to be enough. He smiles faintly and reaches into a small pouch, pulling out a thin strip of cloth marked with faded script. He hands it to you gently. "This is not for keeping," he says. "It's for remembering." You unfold it and find a mantra written in an old looping script. You can't read it, but you feel its weight, like it carries more than words. Before you can ask what it means, the monk simply closes his eyes and begins humming, a low, steady tone that vibrates deep in your chest. And you remember an unusual anecdote you once heard in the monastery below, of a hermit who believed certain sounds could reshape the mind. He would spend hours humming into the caves, claiming the echoes carried prayers farther than words ever could. Historians still debate whether he was a mystic or merely mad from isolation. But here, with the monk's soft hum filling the cold air, you feel something loosen in your thoughts. Take a slow breath in now, Feel the sound not in your ears, but in your chest, like a ripple moving outward. When the monk stops, the silence feels heavier, but not empty. He gestures toward the path beyond the lake, a silent invitation. You hesitate, wanting to ask him more about the mantra, the mountain, the meaning of this quiet meeting. But his eyes tell you that answers aren't something you carry, they're something you find. You bow slightly, a silent thank you, and rise. The trail beyond the lake is narrower, carved between towering cliffs. It feels older somehow, like it was shaped by hands that no longer exist. Along the way, you notice strange carvings etched into the stone walls, spirals, animal shapes, and something resembling an open eye. Some are worn nearly smooth by time, but others remain sharp, as if recently traced. Nietzsche's words echo softly in your mind. There is more wisdom in your body than in your deepest philosophy. You wonder if this path is less about where it leads and more about what it awakens in you simply by walking it. Halfway through the pass, you find a small alcove where a faded set of prayer flags hangs limp. The colors are pale, almost gone, but you can still make out the faint symbols of wind horses and lotus flowers. You touch the fabric lightly, feeling how fragile it has become. From here, the air grows thinner. You pause to rest, pressing your palm against the cold stone. It feels alive somehow, as if the mountain itself has a pulse you can almost feel if you're still enough. Then just ahead, the path opens onto a plateau. And there, surrounded by snow and silence, stands a hidden monastery. It's smaller than the one you left behind, carved directly into the rock face, its walls blending seamlessly with the mountain. Smoke curls faintly from a chimney, carrying the scent of juniper. You walk toward it slowly, every step feeling both inevitable and dreamlike. At the entrance, a single door stands slightly ajar. You push it open, and the soft creak echoes into the dimly lit hall beyond. Inside, candles flicker along the walls, illuminating rows of statues, some human-like, others abstract, all watching silently. There's no one else here, only the faint sound of a bell somewhere deeper inside. You take another deep breath, feeling your body soften with the exhale. Let your jaw unclench, let your shoulders sink. You're exactly where you need to be, even if you don't yet know why. And as you step fully into the hidden monastery, you realize that you've crossed some invisible threshold, not just in the mountain, but in yourself. The door closes softly behind you, muting the outside world until all that remains is the faint crackle of candles. The air is warmer here, scented with butter lamps and the faint spice of incense. Your footsteps echo lightly against the stone floor as you move deeper into the hall. It feels timeless, this space, as though no one has touched it for centuries, and yet it remains alive in its stillness. The statues along the walls seem to follow you with their silent gazes. Buddhas and bodhisattvas carved with serene faces, frozen mid-blessing. Some are chipped, weathered by time, while others glimmer faintly with gold leaf that catches the candlelight. You pause before one statue in particular, a figure draped in flowing robes, holding a bell in one hand and a small mirror in the other. You've heard of this symbolism before, the bell representing sound and emptiness, the mirror reflecting the truth of what is. You stare into its tiny, polished surface and see not your face, but a vague blur of flickering light. Somewhere in the depths of the monastery, a single gong rings, not loud but resonant, like it has traveled a long way to reach your ears. You feel the vibration in your chest more than you hear it. You follow the sound down a narrow hallway, its walls covered with painted mandalas faded to soft blues and reds. Each step you take feels deliberate, like a movement in a ritual you didn't realize you were part of. At the end of the hall is a small chamber lit by a single oil lamp. Inside sits another monk, younger than the one by the lake but with the same quiet stillness. Before him lies an open manuscript, its pages filled with looping Tibetan script. He doesn't look up at first, simply running a finger gently across the lines as if reading a story older than memory itself. When he finally glances toward you, there's no surprise in his eyes, only recognition, as if he expected you. He speaks in a calm voice. Everything you seek has already walked with you. You want to ask what he means, but the words feel unnecessary. Instead, he gestures toward a low cushion opposite him. You sit. The silence between you isn't awkward. It feels like a pause the universe takes between breaths. Then he begins to tell you a story. Not in a hurried way, but slowly, as if each word needs to land fully before the next can exist. He speaks of a Tibetan monk centuries ago who crossed the land of eternal snow in search of an answer he couldn't name. The monk walked for years, meeting mountains that seemed to breathe, rivers that whispered in forgotten tongues, and people who vanished like clouds. The story takes a strange turn. There's an anecdote of the monk arriving at a cave where a hermit lived alone. The hermit told him that enlightenment could be found not in reaching the end of the path, but in realizing the path never truly ends. Historians still argue whether this hermit was real or a metaphor woven into later retellings. Was he a wise teacher? Or just a wandering soul speaking nonsense that somehow felt like truth? As the monk finishes the tale, he smiles faintly. What you see in the snow, he says, depends on what you carry in your heart. You let his words settle. They feel like snowflakes on your skin, light but with a coldness that lingers. Take a slow breath in. Feel your ribs expand gently. Hold it for a moment. Now release it slowly, letting any tension dissolve like snow melting under a soft sun. You notice then that the younger monk has placed a small bowl between you. Inside is a single piece of folded parchment. He pushes it toward you. When you open it, you find only one word written in delicate script. Return. You glance up, but the monk is gone. The chamber's empty now, the oil lamp flickering low. You rise, carrying the parchment in your hand, and make your way back through the monastery. The statue seems softer now, less imposing, almost companion-like. When you reach the door, you hesitate, looking back one last time. The place feels like it's holding a part of you, even as you leave. Outside, the plateau is bathed in pale moonlight. The snow glows faintly, and the path back seems clearer than before. You begin walking, each step crunching softly, feeling lighter than when you arrived. On the way down, you pass the lake again. Its surface is still like glass, but now when you lean closer, it reflects your face more clearly, not perfectly, but with a strange sense of calm. You remember Nietzsche's whisper, "He who has a why can bear almost any how." Perhaps your why is not fully formed yet, but it feels closer. The mountain air seems gentler now. The mist has lifted slightly, revealing more of the stars above. You feel as though the journey itself was the answer, not the destination. Soon you reach the edge of the trail where the monastery below waits. You can see the faint glow of its lamps like warm embers in the night. And you realize this journey was not about finding something new, but rediscovering what was already there. Take one more deep breath, feeling the cool air fill your lungs. Let your shoulders relax completely. Let your hands rest softly at your sides. And as you step back into the quiet of the world below, you understand. Sometimes the snow doesn't hide the path. It reveals it. And now, as the echoes of this journey through the land of eternal snow settle in your mind, let yourself soften even more. Imagine the mountain fading gently into the background, its peaks dissolving into clouds. The lake grows still, the monastery's doors quietly closing, not with finality, but with a promise that you can return to this calm whenever you need. You are no longer climbing, no longer searching. You are simply here, in this moment. Take another slow breath. In, let it fill your belly gently, and out. Feel the weight of the day draining from your shoulders. Your hands grow heavier, your jaw unclenches, and the tiny muscles around your eyes relax. Like the monk by the lake said, the mountain teaches without words. You don't need to hold on to anything now. Let the snow inside your thoughts settle. Imagine each exhale like soft flakes drifting down, layering over every worry, every question, until all that remains is stillness. Even the stories, the hermit's words, the carved symbols on the stone walls, the parchment with return written on it, begin to blur like distant dreams. There's no need to remember them perfectly. They've done their work. Now feel the soft hum of your breath, like the monk's low chant echoing in the caves. Let it soothe you. Let it carry you closer to the quiet you deserve. The land of eternal snow waits in your memory, but you don't have to walk it tonight. You can rest here, in warmth, in softness, in peace. And as your body drifts into stillness, know that this calm will remain.